Hi there YouTube, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a World of Warcraft expansion pack tier list. Um yeah, Dragonflight's coming to a close. The War Within releases in literally 2 days as I record this, or the early access does anyway. So I'm going to go over the past expansions because for the most part now I've played all of them. I've played all of them in a sense, but yeah, casually, not really hardcore. Um, but yeah, this is going to be a casual's perspective on like the past expansions and how much I enjoyed them. And I'm sure none of the opinions of this video will anger anybody at all. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, give the channel a subscribe. I appreciate it very much. It helps out a tremendous amount. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely day. I'll see you in the rest of the video. Ciao for now. Alright, we're here. I apologize, this video isn't gonna be like amazingly pretty. I don't have video effects or anything like that. We're just gonna leave it pretty blank. We're gonna go through it and we'll try make our decision as clean as we can, I guess. I'm gonna move this around a little bit just so we can make it a little bit bigger for the screen. Should I move it down? Should I sort of center it more? Would that make more sense to people? I think that makes more sense to me. I'm going to move myself down here a little bit so it's like I'm looking dead at it. Right. We're going to go in expansion order. Now, for Classic, I will get onto this. Um, yeah, we're going to start off with a hot take, I think. Yes, I didn't play Classic when it was actually vanilla. WoW, when it first came out. I was too young, didn't have money, and I couldn't swindle like £10 a month or whatever it was, £7 or £8 a month for a video game subscription. I managed to pay. I got like a £5 top up for my mobile phone every month or so when I was younger, and you could used to play RuneScape back at the time. You could pay for the membership through like phone credit. If any of you old people remember that. So back then I played a lot more RuneScape because membership was like £2.50 a month, so I used like half of my credit to play that instead. So I didn't experience Classic at the beginning, which is a shame because I bet it was a fun old time. Anyway, um, I did play the 2019 release. I was there for the stress test. I played it on release. And I started off as a human warrior. I played Paladin on the stress test, I believe. Played a human warrior when it fully released. And as a warrior who played mostly solo because I didn't join a guild or anything because crippling social anxiety, I guess. And I don't have a lot of time to actually join a community and raid properly. I tend to pug if I'm doing stuff like that. And I have done for years now. Um, but yeah, a solo warrior leveling through classic. Oh boy, that was rough. I did not enjoy classic a lot. I was going to say at all, but that's not true because it does have a lot of good things about it. I can appreciate. I think the quests were very limited, and the fact that you couldn't really choose what you wanted to do is a problem. But I can appreciate the quests for sending you across the world and like actively participating in the whole world as a thing. You're not just like stuck to one continent, really. You are. They're sort of level segregated, if you will, the different zones. But I love that you can pick up a quest in Ungoro Crater or whatever, and then you have to go all the way back to Darkshore or Teldrassil or something. You had to talk to someone, and it was a lot of doing that back and forth, which added to your playtime. Lord knows you've got to travel a hell of a lot in Vanilla WoW, but I can appreciate things like that, which you don't really get a lot in modern day. And I think Dragonflight's probably brought it. You're still on the one continent, but it's sort of brought it back where you can like pick up a quest in Azure Span where you've got to go to Valdrakken and talk to someone. Then you've got to go to um, the first zone uh, but with Dragonflight, it feels like it takes 2 seconds. So, like dragon riding, sorry, sky riding now. Um, so it's not quite the same, but I can appreciate the continent's so big, it sort of has that feeling. But that's probably my main takeaway from Classic. The talent trees were really cool. I liked the old talent trees quite a lot. I don't think they were the best versions of them in Classic. I think probably Wrath did the best thing of that. But I did only play Warrior. I don't know. I didn't play any other classes because it was a slog to get through. But I hit level 60 while it was still prime vanilla classic time before Burning Crusade come out. It was good. I felt accomplished. I think I did a couple of dungeon runs, some of the harder dungeons like oh God, what are they called now? Like Stratholme was Christ. I think I did those a couple of times, but I didn't really get into the raids, so I missed out on a lot of the game. And apparently they were easy. But I didn't have a lot of time. I was still sort of playing retail at the same time, unfortunately for me. So yeah, I didn't raid. I missed out a lot of it, so I can only really go by the questing. But people say that's a big part of Classic, and that's what they kind of miss from new expansions, right? So, very subjectively, I think, for me personally, a solo warrior leveling, didn't experience much content. I'm gonna have to put Classic. I'm torn. I think it's gonna go bottom end of B for now. Opinions may change over the course of this video. We'll see how it goes. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was okay, but boy, were some things difficult about the game, even though it was meant to be like the casual MMO back then. But I appreciate the groundwork it laid out, and I still had fun with it. Whenever World of Warcraft is at its worst, there's still an amount of fun that I can get from it, and Classic was nowhere near its worst, for sure, as we'll get to. Anyway, um, yeah, shout out to the Classic homies that can play that and absolutely enjoy it. You are real ones, genuinely cool guys. I wish I had more time for it. I'd love to jump back into Classic era maybe. Or even SOD. I haven't played that. Maybe I should I'll tack on SOD at the end of this because it is technically Classic, even though it's very different. I didn't play much of it. I hear that was great at beginning, and I did enjoy myself. I played Paladin for that because the trailer showed there was a rune for Paladins called Howling Blast. So I thought they were going to turn Paladins into like the not Death Knight of SOD. They were going to like soft introduce Death Knights to SOD through Paladin. That never happened, as far as I know. So I got to about level 12, and you got Crusader Strike and things like that, and it was it was fine. I enjoyed it more than base classic for what I played, but I got to level 12, so I didn't experience any of it really, and I've still not got any further. So I've missed out on a lot of that, and I hear that's been good, although player base has been tanking a little bit. But let's be real, understandable. Right, moving on to Burning Crusade. Now, at this time, I experienced the first time I ever played World of Warcraft. It was when Burning Crusade was active, and I believe it was 2006, 2007. When did Burning Crusade come out? Oh God, I can't remember. I was young. The first ever time I played Burning Crusade, I played the free trial. You got, what was it, a 10-day free trial? You could play for free for 10 days. And I made an orc warrior called Big Nose Dude. Still remember it to this day. Don't know what account it was on because that character is long gone. I don't know where they are. But yeah, played warrior again. And it was a good time. I mean, that's when I got hooked to World of Warcraft, right? Playing Burning Crusade, going through the leveling zone back then as a kid, playing warrior. like with a grey or white sword and shield, getting the chainmail greys and whites from the quests and from boar kills and stuff, or scorpions I think you were killing then. Um, that's what hooked me into the game, man. And my free trial ran out, and I was devastated because I thought, oh my God, I've made like 30 copper, and I've got like 5 apples in my inventory, and I was hankering to get back to it. So that was my first experience of it, and obviously I didn't see any Burning Crusade content during that 10-day free trial. But then, like a year later, for my, do I want to say 15th or 16th birthday? Again, this was like 2007, 2008, maybe. The classic slash Burning Crusade battle chest had come out, and I got that. I went into HMV, and I believe my mum was with me, and said, "Oh, you can pick that up now if you want, and that can be part of your birthday gift for this year." Boy, I was over the moon. The battle chest also come with a free trial of however long, I think, as well. And that's when I like properly started playing. That's when I got into it. And again, my first two characters, which are on my current account now. I just made a new email address. I'd signed up, got the new trial. I made an undead mage called Olimira, which still exists on my account to this day, and I'll never delete them. And I also I also made an orc hunter. Um, that was called Roffle Orc, I believe. And that was a good ass time. And I got those to I got them to level 19. I know that for a fact because like in 2008 there was the Beijing Olympics, and they had an event where if you played in battlegrounds, you either got a currency, or if you played a certain amount of games. I don't remember the event now. We're going back 16 years at this point. Um, if you played the battleground event, you got like an Olympic tabard for your characters. So obviously the first battleground bracket was like level 10 to 19. So I like leveled my way up to 19 so I could be the strongest I could be in the battleground. And while that event was on, I got the tabard. And I don't think I touched those characters again after that, which I don't know. I think that's the point when my cousins started playing, um, and his friend started playing, and they played Alliance. So around this time, I moved to Alliance. I made a new character, changed realm, made a dwarf rogue, and the rest is history. That was like my first real character that I started getting into max. I played a lot with my cousin back then as well, so we went through the leveling zones. He made a gnome warlock, I believe, to begin with, but then made a mage later on. It was good, man. Our friend he played Shadow Priest, and then later on Balance Druid, and he like boosted us through dungeons and stuff a couple of times. I remember like going through Scarlet Monastery, and we struggled even getting boosting because he was only like not max level, I don't believe. So that took about 2 hours to get through that dungeon being boosted. But good memories, man. Even on the, I remember getting boosted through Ragefire Chasm as well on my undead mage that I made, and I forget who boosted me. Lord knows I won't remember their name, but the robes dropped from the first boss, and the sword, like the big square sword with like the little point on the end of it, that dropped as well. Oh, we did like multiple runs. I think that boss dropped both items. We did a few runs, like 2 or 3 runs maybe, and I ended up getting both items, and oh, that felt so good, man. That's when the memories started. So that was my original experience of Burning Crusade. I kept leveling up my dwarf rogue. Got to, I remember being in Terakar Forest. I always say level 64 because that's what's stuck in my mind. Because I needed level 64, I think, to equip some shoulders from a quest near the tower where the big moth is. I think. I think there were leather shoulders that required level 64. And I just about equipped them. And then Wrath of the Lich King come out. And I didn't get it straight away. So yeah, I just kept playing. I I saw some of the Scourge event. I remember that specifically, but everything was like level 60, level 70, sorry. So I kept getting one shot off of everything, so I couldn't grind to get the armor set, or I couldn't get the tabard or anything, so I don't have that on my retail account, unfortunately. But I remember being there, and God, was that fun to be a part of at the time, until you die every 2 seconds from the plague. That was a great old time. But yeah, they were fun ass memories, man. So I didn't hit level 70 before Wrath of the Lich King come out, so I didn't experience any dungeons really. I did Hellfire and stuff like that for sure. I didn't experience any raids, but man, was that fun. Anyway, moving on to Burning Crusade Classic, because that's the time when I did experience sort of the end game while it was relevant, sort of. I I just played dungeons mostly. I didn't really jump into any of the raids. But this is when I was playing my Warrior still from Classic 2019. It went into Burning Crusade servers, started playing that. And Warriors just felt so much better than they did in Classic, right? They, I think at some point I kept swapping between Arms and Fury and it was costing me a fortune. Um, I forget why, but I kept getting certain weapon upgrades. And anyway, got to level 70. Did a lot of daily quests and stuff. And yeah, I didn't see any raids or anything like that, but again, didn't have a lot of time to play really, so I just started doing daily quests like Netherwing, and then later on when the Sunwell stuff come out, started doing daily quests there and had an absolute ball with that. That was a good time. Again, missed out on a lot of the content, and I know I feel bad because it was like genuinely good. It's genuinely good stuff from what I have played. But yeah, it like as a general casual player of World of Warcraft, like, in regular Burning Crusade and Burning Crusade Classic, it was a fun ass time leveling up. Warrior felt good, Rogue felt pretty good leveling up as well. I forget if I leveled another. I don't think I leveled another character during Burning Crusade Classic. I think I just started with my Death Knight and then went through that during pre-patch, which felt amazing. So for me, Burning Crusade is, I think it's going to be top end of B tier or bottom end of A tier. And I'm going to stick it to bottom end of A tier just based on how I think about it looking back. And that's all this is going to be, really. Um, yeah, it was great. Loved it. Good times. So now we jump into. I was going to say when I first started like going ham on the game, but it was like the only time I sort of went kind of ham on the game. I've always been like a massive casual player. Kind of, a little bit. But Wrath of the Lich King, let's talk about it, shall we? It's a lot of people's favorite expansions. It's the first one when I first started playing, when I got to endgame and started doing a lot of the endgame stuff while it was fresh content. It was great. What a good expansion that was. Oh, it was so good. And my memories are more fond of it back then, and I know nostalgia's playing a part of that, but Wrath of the Lich King Classic was also great. Different in ways I don't remember. Did that make sense? No. Different in ways from than I remember from when I was younger, for sure. Um, a lot of different changes, but we'll get to that in a second. Back then, I played Death Knight. As soon as I unlocked Death Knight, Wrath of the Lich King came out in November. I was still leveling up my rogue. I got to level 70 on my rogue, and I didn't get Wrath of the Lich King until like as a Christmas present. So activated that. Hey, you can make a Death Knight, my friend. So I did. I leveled up my Death Knight for like the first month or so of my like December to January. I don't remember specific dates, obviously, but I spent a lot of my time leveling up my Death Knight and sort of catching up behind everyone. I fell in love with that class, didn't I? I was an edgy kid. Do we need to go into it? I liked, I mean, Shadow was the coolest hedgehog, right? Um, I don't have any more examples. You know what I mean. I was like an edgy kid. Death Knight, Skulls and Bones, and Death and Destruction. Ah, sign me up, dude. I was in from day one when I could make a Death Knight. Started playing through the starting zone. That was amazing. I was doing like whatever damage you even did on the. Do you remember the cannon quest when you sneak onto the Scarlet ship and then you start blowing up all the Scarlet, like the Scarlet boatmen, crewmen on the beach with their own cannon, and you're doing like 600k or 6 mil damage per cannonball? Oh, sold me instantly. Um, yeah, I was behind, sure, but I was having a ball, dude. Everyone was sort of still leveling Death Knights through Burning Crusade content anyway, so you'd end up with like 4 Death Knights in a group and a healer. Um, I know during Classic you could sort of get to a point where you were sort of 5 Death Knight groups just soloing. Whatever, times change, people learn new things, but yeah, four Death Knights and a healer back then, like power leveling our way through Burning Crusade dungeons. That was good times. I played my rogue a little bit on and off, but yeah, I think my Death Knight definitely hit level 80 first from what I remember, and I absolutely adored playing Frost Death Knight. Didn't know, didn't really know what I was doing back then. Still don't now, but I like to think I know more about the game these days than I did back then. But yeah, that was good fun. I played Frost Tank, which not great, but hey, Frost Presence had like the increased threat and damage reduction and stuff, right? And stamina was it, I think. So I did end up playing Frost Tank, and I tried to. I tanked normal dungeons relatively easily. In fact, I had a great old time being a tank. And then I got to level 80. Obviously, a lot of daily quest hubs in Wrath of the Lich King. Loved it. Absolutely adored every second of every day playing Wrath of the Lich King as a young one. And yeah, I actually got to raiding, and I would go through raids very casually. Again, pick up groups, Vault of Archivon, so incredibly easy. Nax Ramus. Maybe you don't kill Kel'Thuzad in the pugs back then, but hey, you get like, I don't know, what, 10? How many bosses are in Naxxramas? 14? I don't even remember. Um, but yeah, you get like double digit amount of bosses killed. And if you didn't kill the last two, because Saffron, you still needed frost resistance, I think. Um, you probably don't now, but you did back then because people were dumb. But yeah, if you didn't kill Saf or Katie, it was still, oh, it was still good fun, man. If you called a raid early, it was still great. You've had a great time. And yeah, even like Obsidian Sanctum, that was easy. Obviously not if you're doing we didn't do 3 Drakes at the time. We did towards the end of the X pack, I think. Um, but yeah, those first raids for Wrath of Lich King and the heroic dungeons. I remember trying to tank the heroic dungeons under death cap, which I very quickly learned about statistics and like what stat breakpoints you need to get. Um, but yeah, I think when I started raiding, I think I'd start going DPS, but DPS Frost. Didn't play Unholy until, oh Lord, like Trial of the Crusader onwards. And then when Armor Pen got ridiculous in Ice Crown, you could play Blood DPS and pull massive damage, which was good fun towards the end of the X pack. So yeah, I stopped tanking relatively quickly after the whole heroic dungeon thing. I might have tanked an Axramas or two, I forget. Um, but it's so good. I didn't play a lot during Ulduar because it was just a big raid and everyone was saying it was difficult and I couldn't be bothered with it. So I still played during then, but I sort of stuck to the older raids and just did those instead. Farming badges, getting badge gear and stuff like that. Good time. Then probably the peak of when I played WoW was Trial of the Crusader, and that was the raid that I like actively farmed normal 25 every sort of week, and that's when I ended up getting lucky with a lot of pug loot drops. We didn't have GDKP. I mean, it existed GDKP back then, but we didn't sort of do that on our realm. So it was just like need, greed kind of thing. And that's like the one time when I was like, when gear score was the thing, and nobody was like really passing and stuff like that. That is the one time when I was like top 10 Death Knights for like gear score back then. But then it all come to a halt. I pogged Ice Crown quite a lot as well, whenever I could, but I didn't get that lucky with loot drops. And I think I had majority of like 10-man Ice Crown stuff, and still a lot of like top 25 gear by the end of the expansion. Now, Wrath Classic, again, I didn't play as much as I'd like to be honest, but I really loved the addition of the Titan Rune dungeons. They were so much fun to deal with, and I don't think I did many. I did some, there was like alpha, beta, and gamma. I think I missed the period when it was like alpha, and I did some beta, and then I jumped in and did a few gamma ones towards the end of the X-Pack to get like top gear, and that was a really fun time as well. So yeah, Wrath, solid stuff. I have no real complaints about Wrath of the Lich King, personally. It was great back then. It was still great to this day. I'm sad that I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to, but let's be honest, it's an easy S tier for me. Easy S tier. Now, this is where the hot takes might start coming in. Oh my god, you can't even see the games at the bottom. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I... Can I not? Why can I not? Sure. Easy solve, I guess. Um, the hot takes are going to start rolling in thick and fast now, I think. Very thick, very fast. Cataclysm. I have very few nice things to say about this expansion. I I don't know why. I don't know whether it was the theme, the raids. I don't know what it was, but something about this expansion just did not click with me. I was so excited when it was coming out, when the trailer hit and Deathwing's flying all over and everything's blowing up. Oh boy. Oh boy. I was so hyped. But I played it, and this is probably the last time when I did raiding sort of semi-seriously. Raided tier 11 for a little bit. For a little bit. I jumped in as a tank once or twice, I think, but I mostly played Death Knight DPS, as always. Tier 11 was incredibly difficult. Compared to what I'd learned through Trial of the Crusader and Ice Crown specifically, they had some fights which were a bit rough, sure, like the vampire woman, Lanathel. But man, Cataclysm raids were rough. The heroic dungeons were rough. There was a lot of difficulty in this expansion, which I can appreciate. There is a place for it, but as a casual player, I don't care for it. It was nice farming badgers and getting the vendor gear and stuff like that, but man, I did not have a good time. I thought all the dungeons were... There's not many dungeons that I enjoyed from Cataclysm, to be honest with you. I think maybe... What's the dungeon called? Vortex Pinnacle? That was fine. I'm trying to think what other dungeons. Throne of Tides, Dog Water Tier. Black Rock... The Black Rock dungeon? Awful. It's fine. It's just a big cave. I didn't enjoy it. What else did we have in Cataclysm? Oh, the core dungeon, Stone Core, was it? With what's the boss's name? That just says break yourselves upon my body. The Muzrock, the Earth Elemental giant guy. An okay dungeon, but there was far too much trash in that room. There's far too much trash just everywhere. It's like a big corridor that you go down. It's just all trash all the time. Not enjoyable to play through. Oh, what other dungeons did we have? They're like the only ones I can remember, and I do Cataclysm time walking whenever it's up. I genuinely can't think off the top of my head. That's insane to me. They're not memorable. The raids, tier 11, I liked the theme of Bastion of Twilight. I didn't really like Blackwing Descent that much. And again, very difficult. Didn't care for them. Played those for a few weeks, raided through those. Didn't enjoy it. And then I'd sworn off raiding until then Dragon Soul. So arguably I missed like the peak time for Cataclysm that a lot of people say is the best raid of Cataclysm and generally revered through all of WoW, I guess. Firelands. This was probably the patch that broke me, genuinely. I didn't raid, so I was just heroic dungeon spamming and doing the Molten Front dailies, and that's all I did, and I didn't find that enjoyable whatsoever. So I probably leveled a few alts in this time. While I'm talking about that, the revamp to the leveling world, so much better than before. But there are some issues with it as well, obviously. I don't like the updated Thousand Needles. I don't like the flooded area and the boat quests. That's ugh. And yeah, there was like it sort of sectioned everything off per zone. Again, there was no like traveling 7,000 miles to talk to a person to go back, and you know that world of Warcraft was starting to feel a hell of a lot smaller again. And I think it was more prominent because Burning Crusade, you like go to a different planet, right? So it kind of makes sense. Wrath of the Lich King, it's like a whole new continent. You're dealing with the Lich King. Fair enough. But the Cataclysm expansion, you were going back to those two original continents. And then you were still sort of cut off from the rest of the continent, weirdly. I don't know. There's no perfect solution for it, but I feel like I think right, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Chromie time, right? Chromie time in retail now as we speak, you can only play vanilla up until like level 30, right? Is that true? I feel like if you could go through... Oh, because it's part of Cataclysm, so you probably go onto the Cataclysm zones at 30, maybe. Yeah, I feel like if you could go through the OG vanilla zones in time, Chromie time, That would help the problem a little bit in retail, but that didn't exist back then. But yeah, the higher level players still felt incredibly cut off from the low level players, and it was becoming more and more of a problem as it will continue to. Just very noticeable because you're on like the same continent in this expansion, which is I think is the big thing. But hey, it is what it is. Uh, didn't really enjoy myself during Cataclysm. Dragon Soul come out. It brought Transmog, which I think is an amazing addition to the game. Yes, there are kind of issues with, like, if you go back to old World of Warcraft, right? If you've got really good gear, people know you've got good gear because they can see it. Now everyone keeps bringing up, oh, every paladin wears tier 2 paladin and things like that, no matter what gear you've got these days. I think that is kind of an issue. Kind of. But I don't think it really counts anymore, right? It's very windy in my room. Sorry, I keep getting distracted because like my curtains are flying about all over the place. I think that's a very small issue now, especially because like with the introduction of Mythic Plus, people have got like normal dungeon colored gear anyway, unless they catalyze it, sure. But it's all about item level now. It's not about how the appearance of it anymore. So I don't think it's a problem anymore so much. But I don't know. I think they need to go one step further. If they're going to remove that completely, I think they should add a die system, personally. That's another topic for a different day. So yeah, I didn't really get back into raiding until Cataclysm come back, and obviously this is when LFR come out, Transmog come out, and it did bring me back quite a bit. So this is when I went giga casual, right? I played LFR, and that was about it for the next however many expansions, pretty much. So yeah, it was. I didn't mind 4.3. I thought Dragon Soul was a god awful raid, but hey, it brought me back, and I actually did the content repeatedly, so there was something there, right? It was uh it was okay. It was fine. I think personally for me as a whole, Dragonflight Cataclysm is going to be above classic, but only just for me personally. That's how I feel. So, what come after Cataclysm? Perhaps one of the best expansions of all time. I'm saying that with a straight face. I said it with a straight face back then. I'll say it with a straight face right now. Mists of Pandaria was an incredible, incredible expansion. I loved everything about this expansion. One thing I didn't enjoy, the new talent trees where you just picked sort of one out of three options. Hated that, and I hate the fact that we were stuck with it for so long. Genuinely one of my least favorite things of all time. However, in spite of that, Mists of Pandaria as an expansion, beautiful. I don't think it was incredibly alt friendly. You had a lot of reputation buffs, which helped. But it might be one of the expansions where I played like the most alts and things like that because I just could not get enough of the damn game. So again, I will preface this by I didn't do challenge modes. I was tempted to, I just couldn't be bothered, and then pre-patch hit, and then you couldn't do them anymore. So I really regret not going back and doing them. But I could have. They were easy, as far as I'm aware. They were pretty easy. But yeah, I never did challenge modes. I didn't get into like heroic, or we didn't get mythic until Siege of Orgrimmar. But yeah, I didn't do heroic or mythic raiding. I just sort of did LFR, normal slash flex, whatever it become. But yeah, again, still playing Death Knight after all these years at this point. Still having fun. The quest zones, amazing up until Town Long Steps. I'm sure we all sort of feel that way, perhaps. I think Jade Forest, Valley of the Four Winds, and Kunlai Summit are probably everybody's favourites. Krasarang, a bit hit or miss. I kind of enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more now playing Remix than I did back then. I think it's pretty good, enjoyable. Townlong Steps is still an absolute slog to get through. Dreadwaste, also a slog to get through. Um, but yeah, the dungeons were great. We got Scholomance and Scarlet Monastery revamped. They were good. All the dungeons actually in Mop Remix. In Mop Remix, Christ. In Miss of Pandaria, regular. Great at the time. I'm a little burnt out on them because I've played so much Remix. I will say that. But yeah, great dungeons, great stuff, great raids. I didn't like Heart of Fear that much back when it was current. Loved Mogushan. The first half of Mogushan Vaults, especially. What was the raid after that? Heart of Fear. I didn't enjoy at the time. I've got a higher respect for it now. Terrace of the Endless Springs was one of my favorite raids of all time back then. Uh, Not anymore. But it was just so colorful, so vibrant, fun to do. What did we get after that? Was Terrace the last tier 14 one? It was, right? We got Throne of Thunder. Again, I didn't do that on normal, and it was a long-ass raid to get through, but I played LFR whenever I could, enjoyed the hell out of that, apart from the undergroundy bit before you get to G-Kun. Um, Great raid. Great raid. And then we got stuck with Siege of Orgrimmar for 14 months, which, let's be honest, was a down point. Siege of Orgrimmar, boring ass raid, long ass raid, and we had it for such a long time. It was a good raid, but that season needed to be done with so much quicker than what it was. But well, we all know why, don't we? Anyway, as a whole, Miss of Pandaria, loved it. And it was like the first time when I did something cool. I got the green fire when it was current. Still have the Black Harvest title on my Warlock now, which I don't think you can get the title anymore, but the green fire you still can. So yeah, I've still got that title on my Warlock. It felt great. And I was genuinely proud of myself because I had so many macros set up. I was like, target this specific demon and banish it. And oh, it was such an interesting fight. Frustrating, but interesting. And again, lots of daily quest content. I'm going to be in the minority of this, I'm sure, but I love big daily quest hubs. Genuinely. It gives me something to do when I've got nothing to do. And I don't feel like world quests hit that same feeling to me personally. But yeah, I thought it was great. There was lots to do with Mists. And it was great story as well. I've not spoken about the story in any of these, but Classic, you sort of had to read it all. Burning Crusade, again, you sort of had to read most of it. Wrath of the Lich King started adding cinematics and stuff, obviously Wrathgate and stuff like that. It was very good. Cataclysm, I liked the story, I just didn't care about much else. Miss of Pandaria, just everything was great for me. I loved so much about every aspect of this expansion. So, yeah, I'm going to put it behind Wrath of the Lich King, because I did enjoy Wrath of the Lich King more, I would say, on a whole. But it's an immediate S tier for me, Mists of Pandaria, for sure. And I'm very biased, I think, in saying that. Warlords of Draenor. What do we say about Warlords of Draenor? On a whole, I thought the story of how we like got to Warlords of Draenor was a bit skewiff. and that was only worsened by the later patches in Hellfire Citadel. The story, we travel back in time, but it's also an alternate universe. Bronze Dragon shenanigans. I wasn't crazy about it to begin with, and then my enthusiasm died towards the end of that expansion about it. But it could have been cool. And the theme of it, if you take the time travel stuff away, just going back in time, seeing Grom, seeing the other warlords, just the Orc clans. Everything was so good thematically. The advertising for this expansion was so good. The story, I really liked the leveling up zones. I loved the dungeons. I loved everything about this expansion. And then 9.1 hit. Not 9.1, what am I talking about? Mists of Pandaria was 5.0, right? Warlords of Draenor was 6.0. 6.1 hit. 9.1 with Shadowlands, which is another patch we'll be talking about in a bit. 6.1 for Warlords of Draenor. I kid you not. There may have been class changes, I don't remember, but the two big features of that patch were selfie camera toy and the ability to post screenshots and item links directly to Twitter from in-game, and they were the two big features of that patch. Nothing else, as far as I remember. That didn't feel good. So we're just stuck with, obviously launch was a mess, garrisons didn't work properly. Love the idea of garrisons. I think garrisons worked out pretty well in the end. Launch was rough, and garrisons sort of blocked you off from literally the rest of the world, so it felt very antisocial. But as a casual, mostly solo player, that didn't bother me that much personally, but I know for a fact that's a straight up bad thing for the game to have, believe me. So yeah, everything about Warlords of Draenor to begin with, absolutely loved. Highmaul was a good raid. I liked Highmaul a lot. I liked the beginning more than sort of towards the end when you were going up in the Ogre Tower. I thought that was a bit boring. I don't even remember what other raids we had. What did we have? Blackrock Foundry. Boring aesthetic. Really hated the aesthetic, but what an amazing raid regardless. The train fight was new. The giant ass Ogron in the bottom of the pit. The sort of the conveyor belts where the big plungers, not plungers, the big spike traps come down. Ah, the ship with the Iron Maidens. It was a very good raid. Very good raid. It's just a shame aesthetically it was so boring. Very sort of similar colors throughout the whole thing. I like a bit of variety. If you're jumping into like a void raid, I still like there to be something not voidy there, just to spice it up a little bit. But yeah, phenomenal raid. Dungeons were great. I loved everything about all of the dungeons, really. I don't have any issues with them still to this day. It was just obviously they had cut so much content from Warlords of Draenor and I guess put it into Legion. So it was just nothing new to do for a long time. And then we got 6.2, which was the Hellfire Citadel raid and the Hellfire Peninsula zone, Tanan Jungle. And that zone was rough. It was all green, it was all brown. There was rep grinds, and I still haven't bought everything from the Saber store because I don't think I'm not exalted as far as I remember to this day. I will work on that at some point. The zone was bad. It felt fun to play because he was sort of getting good item levels. You felt powerful from what I remember. The raid, again, better than Blackrock aesthetically, but the beginning was just, again, the same because you like assault it from the outside. So the beginning of the raid is the front of the building that you see in the zone. So it's just green again. Go in there. There's you go into like a room. There's a lot of hallways that are like brown Iron Horde aesthetic. Again, very boring to begin with. And then you only get really, I think the blood part of the raid is the only really sort of different one. There's the Fell Void boss, which I thought was very cool. Um, Iskar, when the Hellfire skybox opens up, that was cool. And the blood sort of Draenei wing, that was cool. But then you go back to green, you fight Manoroth, then you go to the Dark Portal, it's green again, you fight Archimonde. It was just a lot of boring colours. But it was an okay raid. But again, we had that for a full year before Legion come out, and it got very boring. There was not much content to do at all. So I was, again, probably leveling alts, I think. I don't know. It's just a very boring time of World of Warcraft, and it could have been so much more. It could have been so great. But saying that, did I enjoy my time with it more than Cataclysm? You know what? The answer for me is absolutely yes, I did. It's still not great. What I enjoyed was really good, but there was a lack of things to enjoy. And that's the problem. If we got the Shatrath raid, if we'd have got Shatrath raid and other bits of content to do, Warlords of Draenor could have been so peak. It could have been S tier. Could have. But there just wasn't anything to do. It's a shame. It's a damn shame. Let's talk about Legion. I know what more hardcore players people scream about instantly about Legion, because I remember hearing about it back then, and still to this day I hear about it occasionally. Legendaries were a pain to grind. If you don't like how the legendaries worked, if you got two legendaries and they weren't the ones that were bis for you, you had to make a new character or something. It was a whole mess, and like grinding the same dungeon over and over again for artifact power. That's what hardcore players did. And yes, I agree, that's bad. Very bad. I'm not a hardcore player. My time in Legion, again, much like Mists of Pandaria, potentially every second of that expansion. Is that bold to say? No, no, every second of Legion I think I enjoyed. I don't think I have any bad notes at all. Death Knight's got like a massive, sort of massive rework. Frost felt good to play. Unholy felt amazing to play. I don't really know about Blood because I'd stopped tanking at this point. But, oh boy. I had quite a lot of alts in Legion as well. Artifact weapons were phenomenal. It felt a bit weird that you just get one weapon for the rest of the expansion. Sure, I can agree with that, but you did get different skins for doing different challenges. So you could then change the appearance. And the only thing I didn't like was that Frost Death Knights were sort of stuck to one-handed weapons back then as well, which I think is a shame because I'm a fan of two-handed Obliterate Frost. I like that quite a bit, and I feel like they've made a lot of improvements recently with that, especially. So then my like two little gripes. I didn't care about legendaries. I just equipped the ones that I got if they were good. But I mean, they were like item level upgrades anyway for me. But the world bosses were fun. The dungeons, I absolutely adored the dungeons in Legion at the time. And now, every time it comes up in time walking in retail, I don't think I can go back to many of them. There's a lot of them that I really hate these days. Vault of the Wardens, I am sick to death of seeing that place. I had to I had to farm it for my rogue's hidden appearance for the um the the wind blade appearance for the outlaw weapons. I forget why. One of the bosses dropped something for it. But yeah, the dungeons back then, I remember loving every single second of doing those dungeons. The raids were phenomenal, and I think we can all agree Nighthold is probably one of the best raids of all time. What come after Nighthold? Tomb of Sargeras. I liked it less, but it was still incredibly good. And Antorus. Antorus I really loved, but again, it was a lot of green aesthetic until later on. But it was sort of very front loaded. All the raids were good. All the dungeons were good. My class felt amazing to play. Artifact weapons, artifact appearances, challenge, not challenge mode, mage tower. I I mean, it was getting towards the end of the expansion. There was so much world content to do. There were world quests which were new at the time, and it'd just be like, hey, kill this one big guy. Easy, in and out, 500 gold, 2 second job. Love that. Mage Tower was like that, the sort of challenge thing to do in Legion, and that was frustrating. Boy, was that frustrating. But when you finally killed the boss and got the appearance that you wanted, it felt so good, dude. And I'm glad we're getting that back with Delves in the War Within, which I'm very much looking forward to. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Legion, I have no bad notes against, personally. I know there were issues. The legendary system, yes, was bad. I know that for a fact, even though it didn't affect me when I played. And then they sort of fixed it where you ground a currency and could buy the legendaries that you wanted. Just everything about it was great, wasn't it? You kill a rare mob and then a legendary pops up randomly. Rarely happened, but it felt so good. Suramar, let's talk about Suramar. It's like a story quest hub that evolves as time goes on. And then the Suramar Withered Army training, where you could get there was like a druid appearance and other artifact appearances from that as well. Oh, I had so much fun doing that. I liked that little scenario thing. I thought it was that was pretty fun to go through. I think you could do it every 3 days, was it? I think. I forget, or once a week maybe. Regardless, I enjoyed going through it. I think I got Sefu's secret legendary from there once, and I think that was on my death knight, from what I remember. But yes, very fond things. The story of Legion as well was very, very good. I liked the Alliance Horde conflict in Stormheim. The Stormheim story as a whole with Odin and stuff was very, very good. The class order halls, I didn't even talk about them. That's why I had so many alts. You had like the class order storylines to go through, which phenomenal. Oh, the Death Knight one was amazing. You like rose you risen from the dead, the new four horsemen of the apocalypse, and then you attack the Paladin one to raise Tyrion Fordring as a horseman of the apocalypse, and the Paladins kick your ass, and you get sent back to Acheris. Oh man, even though I played Death Knight, that was so cool to be a part of. It was, I mean, obviously, it was Lights Hope Chapel again. No, is that what it's called? The one in Plaguelands. That's where Tyrion's body was in the Paladin Order Hall. And I just felt like you got your asses kicked, much like the Wrath of the Lich King quest line when you first make a Death Knight. It just brought back so many memories. But then I played a Paladin because I thought that was cool as shit. I want to play a Paladin now. And you just had like these intertwining different bits. I feel like I don't know if paladins and priests had a cross section. Some of the stories like intertwined, and it just felt so good, man. The quests were amazing. Everything was so good. And let's be honest, if they do another remix event, I didn't talk about Mop Remix that much because I played it to death and got burned out. Still enjoyed Mop Remix a tremendous amount. I thought it was very, very good. But if they ever do a remix event again, ooh, Ooh, I'd love for it to be Legion. I don't think it would be Legion, but I'd love for it to be Legion so much. So yeah, I really love this expansion, and I would say more so than Mists, but not by a tremendous amount. Just slightly more. All right, let's doom. Let's be a doomer for a little bit. Let's talk about Battle for Azeroth. And I remember this. This is the first, the pre-expansion and the beta for Battle for Azeroth is the first time that I took up trying to stream and make gameplay videos, which clearly gone very well for me. Uh, this is like the first game I wanted to try it with, and I did it. And for that, it holds a very soft place in my heart because it was the Battle for Azeroth pre-patch with like the Darnassus stuff and things like that. What do I say? The artifact weapons from Legion were amazing, and the Heart of Azeroth from Battle for Azeroth tried to do the same thing, just did it infinitely worse. Not only that, you had Azerite pieces of armor that had locked spells, bonuses, until your Heart of Azeroth got to a specific level. And the only way you could level it was from doing island, or not the only, but the easiest way to level it was from doing island expeditions. Now, hear me out. At the time, island expeditions, I hated them. When they were relevant content, awful. Genuinely awful. Didn't enjoy them one bit, so my Heart of Azeroth was very low level. And then I couldn't equip good pieces of gear because they'd be pointless because they wouldn't have the spells on. Kul Tiras, I enjoyed as a zone. I thought as a leveling zone, the story while leveling was generally pretty good. Waycrest Manor is a fond memory. Stormsong Valley, I just think that's generally a beautiful place. And I think about, was it Fort Dalen over on the left-hand side of Stormsong Valley? I think about that place quite a lot. If I were to like have a World of Warcraft house, it'd probably be there. The story of Kul Tiras was good. The like local story of Kul Tiras. I really enjoyed the leveling up experience. Island expeditions didn't enjoy. Azeroth, Azerite armor, and the Heart of Azeroth. I didn't enjoy that at all. The quest lines where you went to the Horde starting zone, like the island of Zuldazar, whatever the whole thing's called, they were cool stories, but I really hated the Horde zones. And I don't know, I, we just we'd come from Legion where we were doing so much damage and everything was ridiculous and you had so many buttons to press, and also we got squished from level 120 down to 60. Oh god, no, oh, I don't even remember. When did we get squashed? Was it Shadowlands we got squashed? Item levels got squashed in BFI, I'm pretty sure. And they also added like a 1.5 second GCD for all classes or something. And you could tell just from the pre-patch, the game felt so awkward and slow to play, and it really took the wind out of my sails. And ironically, for a sailing expansion, I suppose. But not only that, from leveling up, I think it was still 120 in BFA. From leveling up from Legion to BFA, you actively got weaker as you leveled up, which didn't feel good at all. And it sort of just made me feel down about the whole expansion. It was very hard to get me invested again. So yeah, a lot of the time in BFA, it was the first expansion, I think, where I've like literally quit my subscription because I just wasn't enjoying it, and I forget for how long. but nothing felt fun to play. Nothing made me want to play it. So I got stuck in this rut of getting resources and getting bonus rolls, and then I didn't even do LFR. Uldir was a god awful raid. The theme of everything in BFA just did not appeal to me personally. Uldir with the plague, old goddy stuff, cool at first. I don't want a whole raid of it. I really could not care less. Gahoon hated him as a boss. It was just it was underground. There was Titan structures, so they were gold, but it was just very dull colors. And I will say that I think BFA as a whole just had a very dull color palette, which I didn't like. Um, Battle for Dazara Law, good raid. Again, it is just the Horde city. Didn't really care about it. The story at this point is when Sylvanas and Nathanos drove me mad. I couldn't stand him as a character, and you had to deal with him. Sylvanas was cool in Legion. I liked Legion Sylvanas a lot, and then BFA Sylvanas, you know the story with that. So we attack Horde City for one of the raids. Cool idea. Like swapping between Alliance and Horde. I get it. It's a good idea. Um, didn't really enjoy the raid. Again, I didn't enjoy playing characters. It didn't feel good to play. So after that we got Najatar. I thought the Najatar zone sucked. Again, dull color palette, not much to do there, very boring. Mechagon. Mechagon was actually fun to deal with. I didn't mind Mechagon, but again, a very dull color palette, not very exciting to look at, not a massive amount of things to do. Didn't enjoy that. And that takes us halfway through the expansion. Then the final patch, 8.3, N'Zoth. And we all know at this point, we got Crucible of Storms, but I never did that. The Xal'atath stuff with N'Zoth was appealing at the time because I thought, oh, I did play Priest in Legion. She's appeared again out of nowhere. I like this continuation of the story from Legion. That was good. I enjoyed it at the time. I enjoy it now, especially now going into War Within. Um, so yeah, the story to that point I really appreciated, and then 8.3 happened, and story-wise, N'Zoth died in the worst potential way possible. You've obviously seen the trailer of the ending cutscene of Ny'alotha compared to the Lord of the Rings. Like, shot for shot, it's incredibly the same, near enough. But yeah, just big laser beam, N'Zoth's dead. Don't really know much about Xal'atath because she disappears into a portal. Now we do. Um, However, I will say towards the end of BFA, I thought 8.3 and the Mists of the Veil of Eternal Blossoms and Uldum zones had fairly decent content to deal with. I didn't like Horrific Visions. I didn't like the cape mechanic. However, I did like Corruptions. I think Corruptions are the one thing I did enjoy from 8.3, like massively. And yes, they were cheesy. Yes, it sucked that you had to get the corruption resistance to have more corruptions. But as soon as you could buy the corruptions from the vendor, and you could just have Twilight Devastations popping off constantly, that felt it made characters so much more fun to actually play. Because I don't know, like over the patches, I think I don't know if the GCD restriction got eased or if you were just getting that much power, it didn't really matter anymore. But the game felt better to play towards the end of BFA. And corruptions were a lot of fun to mess around with. And I think they should bring them back. Not permanently. I think maybe like a season 4 thing if they keep doing this sort of awakened, fated season 4 thing at the end of an expansion. Maybe bring in something a bit silly that you can just sort of faff around with and like almost mop remix elements, right? You had the gems that did certain effects. If you brought something like that in just to tackle the raids in a different way and have a bit of fun, I think that'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, 8.3 was fine. But BFA, I did not enjoy at all, really. And I genuinely think, for me personally, let's talk about the dungeons as well. I miss those. BFA dungeons were kind of hit or miss. Waycrest Manor, amazing. Loved it. Um, King's Rest, it's a dusty old corridor in a troll dungeon basement. Don't care. And yes, Waycrest Manor is a dusty old house in a basement, but shut up. It was cool. There weren't a lot of dungeons that I enjoyed. The Sethrak one was pretty cool. I didn't mind that, but again, very, very washed out, not colorful color palette at all, really. Um, not much I enjoyed from BFA. And thinking back to it now is even now just filling me with not rage, but you know when you get that sick feeling in your stomach. It's like the opposite of nostalgia. So for me, I think BFA is genuinely going to be my first C tier. Genuinely. I don't even think that does it justice. It's going to be my first D tier. Sorry, BFA. It's just how it is. How I felt as a casual player, BFA was not for me. I didn't enjoy anything about it, really. It's bottom tier. Bottom tier. Let's talk about Shadowlands, shall we? Objectively, let's talk objectively story-wise first. Shadowlands. I've never been so excited for an expansion at the announcement. Sylvanas couldn't really care less about. Her story I didn't care for at all. Shadowlands, the trailer dropped, and I've never been so sad to see Bolvar get beat up and just absolutely turned into a what's a nice way of putting it? Irrelevant character. I wish Bolvar so much played such a more important part of the story and actually showed himself to be strong, at least. He was the goddamn Lich King and he got played for a goddamn fool. That said, I thought the trailer was still great, apart from that. We all thought Sylvanas was going to put the crown on. She didn't. She ripped it. The sky explodes. Visually beautiful. Cannot fault that whatsoever. And yeah, my excitement for Shadowlands was like peak. So peak. I was so looking forward to it because Bolvar was involved. Realm of Death. I play a Death Knight. I was excited for something to happen there. Did it? No. No. Um, yeah, so then we actually get into Shadowlands. The first zone we go to, we use the shards of the Lich King's helmet to open up a portal into the Shadowlands. The first zone we land in, first zone we land in is the Moor. And I'm not going to give anyone horrific flashbacks of Shadowlands. We all know what happened. The Moor might be the worst introduction quest to any new expansion that I've ever witnessed. The introductory zone, genuinely awful. Everything about the Moor was garbage. The color scheme, awful. The gameplay mechanics when you actually go back, the fact that you can't mount up there, so much of it is so aggravatingly bad. I hate it so much. And it wasn't fun. However, I will say this. I liked I liked the story between the NPCs and stuff and talking to the like Anduin doing the bubble thing and he says, "Champion, go." That was all kind of cool stuff. Brawl, being a badass again, getting an axe, and fighting his way through the moor. I thought those elements very cool. The level up zones of Shadowlands, good. I like them a lot. Bastion, beautiful color scheme, relatively enjoyable content, leveling up. And then we get to Maldraxxus, which thematically I adore. Maldraxxus was my covenant. Thematically, just it's metal, it's undead badasses. It's very Death Knight, and I play a Death Knight. Obviously, it's edgy. The color scheme was genuinely garbage, though. It's just washed out green. Not great. And then we get to Ardenweald. I think I'm doing these in order. Ardenweald, absolutely gorgeous area. Beautiful, no notes. Not my favorite Covenant. I didn't really care for them that much. They were fine, but the blues and the sparkles and the fact that it's like Emerald Dreams twinned realm, I guess, but that's death and Emerald Dream is life. All very cool stuff. I loved the blue. I'd say the quests were a bit weaker in general, from what I can remember, but the aesthetic of the zone was absolutely gorgeous. Then we move on to Revendreth, which again, like Maldraxxus, love the theme of it, love a lot about it, but the skybox was very cool. And when things were like infused with the red anima, I thought that was very cool. Other than that, it's just grey. There's a lot of grey everywhere, and oh, again, just very aesthetically not that pleasing. But the level up was good. The level up experience was very good. And the fact after you'd leveled up once, you had to do it linearly the first time, but then whenever you sent an alt through to the Shadowlands, you could eventually skip the more introduction. Great. But then you could also do fated leveling, which made it like an end game experience where you did world quests and dungeons and stuff, and you could tackle it in any order, but you were still leveling up through the whole process. I thought that was a really cool idea as well. But outside of that, the dungeons were pretty great. I've got no complaints about the dungeons. The fact that there was like daily quests to do, or every day you got a new 3-day daily quest box to deal with. That was kind of fun. Not too many to do, but something to do. And as a casual player, that felt really okay. It was alright. I enjoyed my time with Shadowlands mostly. Until it had been, I don't know, there were so many stupid things, right? There was covenants. You had to pick which of the four armies you wanted to align yourself with. And we all know the story about that. They give abilities. They had power tied to which decision you make. So obviously everyone was picking the best one for the most damage or the most effective ability for your class. And then you couldn't like do, while you were part of that, you couldn't change them for like a week or something, or 3 days. And they had to eventually change that so you could do it whenever, but then you had different anima amounts and different banks that you worked for. Again, it could have been so good. It had the potential as a casual player, and I will say this, I've gone back to it in Dragonflight to finish off the meta achievement. Doing Shadowlands world content without caring about the rewards or anything, and I'll say the same about Torghast as well. Just doing it for fun and casually, it's genuinely been quite a blast going back to it. However, at the time, power was tied to a lot of these different things. Torghast was the only way you could get a currency to make your legendaries. Awful. Um, and you were stuck with the covenant that you chose for the ability, and then you were sort of tied into that aesthetic as well, so you couldn't collect the other aesthetics from the other covenants, which looked really good. it just it there was like a mountain of content that you could do, and they told you, oh, you can only go up this little path here, while you watch everyone else go up the other paths, but they can't do the path that you're doing either. Um, and they all had these hubs again, which felt like sort of mini garrisons that just cut the player base in like quarters. It felt so awkward. But yeah, that was when it first came out, and then we get to 9.1 fourth year, which I spoke about this at length when it was the current, or when it was just about to end and we were going into 9.2. 9.1 might be my least favorite patch, and I'm including the selfie camera and Twitter posting in this. 9.1 Korthia is my least favorite time of World of Warcraft of all time. After the fun and newness of Shadowlands launch happened, it sort of plummeted. You could see all of the issues, and it was really sort of stopping you as a player from enjoying the game. 9.1 didn't really alleviate that. You had to do a lot of content in the Maw, and then they brought in this new zone attached to the Maw, and it's the same goddamn color scheme as the Maw, so it's just more blandness and more grinding and more blandness. Ugh. And then we've been stuck in this rut of just new World of Warcraft zone with rares to farm and treasures to pick up. And since like the Timeless Isle, it's just been that over and over again, but worse or better in some ways. And no innovation whatsoever. So yeah, that's probably the longest time that I've unsubscribed from WoW for. Um, yeah, it just wasn't enjoyable. I missed a lot of Korthia. I didn't raid at all, in fact. What was the first raid for Shadowlands? It was, I thought the Sire Denathrius raid was pretty good. I played that a few times. Korthia come out, I didn't do Sanctum of Domination, could not care less, even though I had cool armor sets. And then I sort of just stopped playing WoW, and then I started playing Final Fantasy 14, and everyone left at that point. Final Fantasy 14 found a very fond place in my heart. Played through that story. Oh, what a delight. I can't thank World of Warcraft enough for being so bad. It made me play an infinitely better game story-wise at the time. I think World of Warcraft's kind of cooking with their story at the minute, but hey, we've got to wait and see. So 9.1 was genuinely awful. The story got worse. There was more Sylvanas stuff. I talked about the Sylvanas stuff. Everybody knows about the Sylvanas stuff. It was bad, right? Um, that's not the fault of the people that worked there. I think it was one of the higher ups that had this idea and put it in motion, and then I think this certain person was fired, and there was a whole Blizzard lawsuit, and I think he was one of the people involved with some of that. So I can't imagine morale was very high. I can't imagine how rough it must have been for the people that work there. Genuinely, I feel bad for them. But to like sort of guide that Sylvanas story the best they could, sort of rudderless, I guess. I mean it wasn't pretty, was it? It wasn't a good piece of content, but I can appreciate the effort for them trying to fix something incredibly dumb. Um, then we get to 9.2. Again, the whole story of Shadowlands, I think the implications of the story of Shadowlands, the overarching story of Shadowlands, especially if you watch like Pyromancer, speculation, and how he pieces together all these different parts, a brain like no other to do with like WoW lore, genuinely. A lot of that overarching story, so good, so compelling. I love every second of that. What we got in game was garbage. It was nothing. It was this enemy. We had a villain that had no build up, who was then in charge of everything that had ever happened ever. All the important parts of the lore. Like he created like Frostmourne and all this other stuff, and forced Arthas, like nudged him onto the path he went on. All of that got like undermined through this story, and this villain had no build up, come out of nowhere. People think he's basically a robot 'cause he turns into a robot thing at the end, even though not quite how that works. Sure, whatever. He's a robot. Um, and his voice was so deep and so rattly, you could not understand a word he was saying. It's just all so disappointing, man. The only bit I remember seeing about the cinematics in Shadowlands and thinking, God damn, these are good, is all the bits with Anduin and Sylvanas. I thought their one-on-one conversations were great. Anduin getting turned evil and runeforged and dominated, kind of cool. I enjoyed that a lot. Everything else was so bad. So bad. And it just sticks in my head, the Sylvanas, like saying the, oh, everyone serves death in the end, and then she does the, I will never serve, and then she gets concussed for like the next few months. Story aside, Zereth Mortis as a zone, incredible. Such a return to form, Zereth Mortis. I loved it a lot, but it did get boring after a little bit. Season 4 was okay. The raid I didn't really do. It looked fine. It was a bit sandy, a bit boring. The color palette of Zereth Mortis sort of had, it was split in two. You had the grassy bit and the sandy bit, so it had a bit of variance. I thought that was enjoyable. But yeah, I don't know, characters felt strong at the end. They'd sort of removed some of the Covenant restrictions towards the end of Shadowlands. You still had to pick the one you wanted for the ability, but things got a bit easier. So at the end of the X Pack, I would say I was enjoying my time with it. I think it was pretty good. I can't believe I've gone on for an hour and a half about this goddamn tier list. Why can I not be more concise? I'm gonna give Shadowlands, I'm gonna give it a C. And let's talk about Dragonflight to finish it all off. Dragonflight had maybe my least favorite introductory cinematic of all time. I thought people flying around on dragons was pretty cool. We saw Razageth, which was pretty cool. Razageth died instantly, which is a shame. The story of Dragonflight, I think it could have been told a little bit better, but I don't have the expertise to say on how. Certain bits just seem to not hit. And I don't know, the coolness of it seemed tame, but it's also sort of like a restart, a refresh. It's like, I don't know, I feel like Dragonflight is the vanilla of the retail age, right? Just go to a new world, there are dragons. I thought the side quests, a lot of the side quests of Dragonflight were really cool and genuinely interesting. I thought the main story had really cool moments, but it didn't hit 100% of the time, which is fine. Loved the leveling up zones. Still do. The leveling up experience was really good. Absolutely adore the new world event things that they get to do, which the soup, time rifts, hunts, all this other stuff. What else do we have? We had the traveling daily quest hub. That was kind of fun to do for a little bit. I still feel like you started off weak feeling at the beginning of Dragonflight until you got some like good gear. It started sort of clicking into place. World bosses were good. Every dungeon I've done has been enjoyable. I think Neltharis is probably my least favorite just because it's fiery throughout the whole thing. I don't know what else to say, man. The raids in Dragonflight have been some of my favorite raids of all time. And I don't know if that's just because I've started dipping my toes back into like the raiding, pugging scene a little bit. They're easier to deal with. Mechanics, certain mechanics are relatively easy to sort of see what's coming. But obviously, Amidrisil, the druid, tree lady with the green on the green and the green. Yes. And the fire on the fire and the fire. Certain bits are a bit difficult, but I think as a whole, it's felt infinitely more accessible. And this might be the expansion where I've made the most alt characters, especially not because of the War Within pre-patch, but hearing about the War Within pre-patch and how everything's sort of war-banded and is coming together for the War Within. Oh, it's just felt so good to play not Death Knight. Death Knight's sort of stagnated for so long over the past few expansions since Legion. And in Dragonflight, I would say I was still getting bored of them because they're not really changed. The War Within pre-patch has changed them quite a bit. And I'm very much looking forward to the War Within and seeing how that's going to play because it feels like certain classes now just feel good again for the first time since maybe Legion. So I'm very excited to dip my toes back into stuff and maybe do some more mythic dungeons and dip back into maybe heroic pugging if I get around to it. Normal pugging has been a blast. I didn't really do much. I skipped a lot of Zaralak caverns because I thought the aesthetic was boring. The raid I didn't see much on, and I've only just done that in season 4. And yeah, Aberrus was great. Very fiery, but it was still a very good raid. Vault, probably my least favorite out of the raids, but it sort of varies and it's still good. The Madrasil is probably my favorite raid of the X Pack. And again, very fiery, but it also has grassy bits. And I thought the Farak fight was very enjoyable. I don't know. Dragonflight's been a very fun time for me. Genuinely. It's never going to beat Legion. It's... I don't know where to place this, man. But yeah, the world content as a casual has been phenomenal. You've got like weekly caches that you can do and get gear, which they're moving into the War Within as well. It's just felt so good. You've just got something. You don't feel like you don't need a daily quest hub to have something to do because there's just so much you can do on different characters still. So it's just felt really good as a casual player. And the dungeon changes recently, how heroic is now like Mythic 0 and Mythic 0 is now like Mythic 10. I love that change so much, and it's actually got me to do dungeons again, which has felt nice. I've not felt burnt out. I've not unsubscribed. I've enjoyed all of my time with Dragonfly. I did PvP and like working on the elite set. I wasn't very good at all, really, but I I worked on so many different things in this expansion. I'm very proud of myself for doing so. It's been genuinely enjoyable. I don't know if I place it above Miss or below, but I think for me personally, it's S tier. It may be S tier. It might be top end of A tier for me. I think I might be. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm going to put it at top end of A tier. I don't know if I'm happy with that position. It's either top end of A or bottom end of S. And it's a very, very thin line, I think. I think I think I'm happy with that decision. I think. However, it's been 1.5 hours. I have rambled about some of my experiences with all of the World of Warcraft expansions. I pray that you've made it through more than 5 minutes, and I'm sorry for rambling so much, but I was meant to open the 20th anniversary box. I've got it there, now it's getting late. I don't know if I've got time. Um, but yeah, I think that's my tier list on the WoW expansions. If you want to say I'm wrong in the comments down below, let me know why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm stupid. And if you're a hardcore player or a more hardcore player, I'm sure your opinion differs, but let me know why, regardless. Let me know your thoughts on like artifact weapons or Heart of Azeroth power farming, how that affected your enjoyment of the game. But yeah, that's going to be me for now. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you've liked the video, give it a like, give the channel a subscribe. I appreciate it very much, and it helps out the channel a tremendous amount. I need to get a drink because my throat's gone very, 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 very dry. So I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate it very much. Bye for now. Bye.